Jiwoo stood at the observation window of the transport ship and stared at the massive station floating in space. Nexus Prime was bigger than anything she had ever seen. It looked like a small moon made of metal and glass with thousands of lights blinking across its surface. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like insects around a lamp. She touched the cold glass with her fingers. Just 3 months ago, she had been working in a hospital in Seoul, treating patients and studying medicine. Then Earth made first contact with aliens and everything changed. Now she was here, millions of miles from home, about to meet species from across the galaxy. Nervous? Taemin asked. He was standing behind her, looking tired. The ambassador had barely slept since they left Earth. He carried the weight of representing their entire planet on his shoulders. A little, Jiwoo admitted. I never thought I would be part of something like this. I'm just a medic. You are more than that, Taemin said. You volunteered when no one else would. That takes courage. Jiwoo did not feel courageous. She felt scared, but she had learned long ago that fear and courage often lived together. You could be both afraid and brave at the same time. The ship docked at Nexus Prime an hour later. When the doors opened, Jiwoo got her first real look at alien life. The station was filled with creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some walked on 4 legs. Others floated in the air. One looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. Another had skin that changed colors like a rainbow. Hee-jin walked close to Jiwoo. The military advisor kept her hand near her weapon, even though weapons were not allowed in most parts of the station. Stay alert, she whispered. These species have been traveling through space for thousands of years. We are babies compared to them. The Earth delegation was led to a large hall where the Galactic Council met. Hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows, all watching the humans with different kinds of eyes. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked hostile. Administrator Velnus came forward to greet them. He was an insectoid creature with 4 arms and a body covered in shiny green armor. His voice came through a translator device that turned his clicks and buzzes into words Jiwoo could understand. Welcome, humans, Velnus said. His tone made it clear he did not think much of them. You wish to join our community, to trade with us, to access our technology. We do, Taemin said firmly. Earth has much to offer. Velnus made a sound that might have been laughter. Really? What can your primitive world possibly offer us? You have barely left your own solar system. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Your weapons are toys. Other aliens in the hall joined in the laughter. Jiwoo felt her face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. But Taemin remained calm. Then let us prove ourselves, the ambassador said. We understand you have trials. Tests to determine which species are worthy of your respect. The laughter stopped. Velnus tilted his head. The trials of ascension? Yes, but surely you do not wish to participate. Many species have tried. Many have failed. Some have died. We wish to try, Taemin said. Velnus looked at the other council members. They exchanged gestures and sounds. Finally, he turned back to the humans. Very well. The combat trials begin in 3 days. You may enter 1 candidate. Choose wisely. Back in their quarters, the Earth delegation argued about who should enter the trials. Hee-jin wanted to send a trained soldier. Taemin wanted someone who could think strategically. They went through lists of candidates, but no one seemed right. I will do it, Jiwoo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. You? Hee-jin said. No offense, but you are not a fighter. You are a medic. That is exactly why it should be me, Jiwoo said. They expect us to send our strongest warrior. But our strongest warrior would still be weak compared to theirs. Maybe we need a different approach. And what approach is that? Taemin asked. Survival, Jiwoo said. I trained as an emergency responder. I have worked in disaster zones. I know how to stay alive when everything goes wrong. Maybe that is worth more than knowing how to fight. The next 3 days passed quickly. Jiwoo trained as much as she could, running through the station's lower levels, learning the layout, building up her endurance. Other species watched her with amusement. A human preparing for combat? It was like watching a child try to wrestle a bear. On the day of the trials, thousands of aliens gathered in the arena. It was a massive circular space with seats rising up on all sides. The floor of the arena could change shape and environment, creating different challenges for the fighters. Jiwoo stood with the other candidates in the preparation chamber. She had never felt so small. To her left was a creature that looked like a living mountain. covered in rock-like armor. To her right was something that seemed to be made of liquid metal, constantly shifting and flowing. Further down the line was Overlord Krath himself, the reigning champion. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scales like black diamonds and muscles that rippled with barely contained power. One by one, the candidates entered a scanning chamber where the arena AI analyzed them and provided weapons based on their species and abilities. The rock creature received a hammer that could create earthquakes. The liquid metal being got an energy net that could trap anything. Krath was given a plasma lance that glowed with deadly light. Then it was Jiwoo's turn. She stepped into the chamber and light washed over her. She felt it moving through her body, reading her DNA, her history, her entire evolutionary background. The sensation was strange but not painful. The light faded. Jiwoo waited for her weapon to appear. Nothing happened. She looked around, confused. Had the system made a mistake? Then a voice spoke directly into her mind. It was old and powerful, like the voice of something that had existed for millions of years. Analysis complete. Species, human, origin, Earth, classification, persistence, predator. Endurance, hunter. Adaptability, extreme. Jiwoo held her breath. Weapon allocation, none required. Assessment. Earth does not need weapons. The chamber opened. Jiwoo stepped out into the preparation area, empty-handed. For a moment there was complete silence. Then the laughter began. It started with a few aliens and spread through the entire arena like wildfire. Thousands of beings laughed at the sight of a human with no weapon, no armor, nothing but the simple clothes she wore. Even some of the other candidates were laughing. Krath looked at her with something like pity in his eyes. "You should leave now, human," he said. "This is no place for you. You will die." Jiwoo looked up at him. She was afraid. More afraid than she had ever been. But she thought about Earth, about everyone watching back home, about the billions of humans who needed their planet to be taken seriously. "Maybe," she said quietly, "but I am going to try anyway." The first round was announced. Jiwoo would face a Draknor warrior named Vex. He was smaller than Krath, but still massive compared to Jiwoo. He wore armor that could deflect energy weapons and carried a plasma lance that could cut through steel. As Jiwoo walked into the arena, the crowd roared with excitement. They wanted to see what would happen when a weaponless human faced a professional warrior. The betting screen showed odds of 1,000,000 to 1 against her survival. Jiwoo stood at one end of the arena. Vex stood at the other, his weapon ready. Between them was 2 kilometers of open space with rocks, trees, and water features scattered throughout. A countdown appeared in the air. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She thought about all the training she had done, all the disasters she had survived, all the times she had pushed through when her body wanted to give up. 5, 4, 3. She was not here to fight. She was here to survive. And humans were very, very good at surviving. 2, 1. The signal sounded. Vex charged forward with incredible speed, his plasma lance aimed at Jiwoo's chest, and Jiwoo ran. Jiwoo ran as fast as she could. Behind her, she heard Vex roaring with anger and the sound of his heavy footsteps shaking the ground. She did not look back. Looking back would slow her down, and she needed every advantage she could get. The crowd was screaming. Some were laughing. Others were shouting for Vex to catch the coward. Jiwoo ignored them all. She had learned long ago that other people's opinions did not matter when you were trying to stay alive. She ran toward the rocks on the far side of the arena. The ground was uneven, with small stones and patches of something that looked like grass. Her legs burned, but she kept moving. This was what she had trained for. Not fighting, running, enduring. Vex was faster in a straight line, much faster. But Jiwoo did not run in a straight line. She weaved between obstacles, changed direction suddenly, forced him to adjust his path. Every time he had to turn or slow down, it cost him energy. Small amounts, but they would add up. After 10 minutes, Vex was still chasing her. His plasma lance had fired several times, but Jiwoo had managed to dodge by staying behind rocks and trees. The shots left burning marks on the ground and melted through stone. If even one hit her, she would die instantly. After 20 minutes, the crowd started to get confused. Why had Vex not caught her yet? He was a trained warrior. She was just a human. But every time he got close, Jiwoo found a way to create distance again. She jumped over rocks he had to go around. She ran through water that slowed him down in his heavy armor. She used every trick she could think of. After an hour, something changed. Vex was slowing down. Not much, but Jiwoo noticed. His breathing was heavier. His movements were less precise. The armor that protected him was becoming a weight he had to carry. Jiwoo was tired too. Her legs ached. Her lungs burned. Sweat covered her entire body. But this was normal. This was what her body was designed to do. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest, but they could keep going, hour after hour, day after day, until everything else gave up. In the Earth delegation's viewing area, Taemin watched the screen in amazement. "She has been running for over an hour," he said. "I did not think it was possible." Hee-jin was making notes on her tablet. "Look at Vex, he is built for quick kills. Short explosive combat. His entire physiology is optimized for fights that last minutes, not hours. But Jiwoo's body is different. She can maintain this pace for a very long time." "Persistence hunting," Taemin said quietly. "That is what she is doing. Our ancestors used to hunt animals this way. They would chase them for hours until the prey collapsed from exhaustion." Hee-jin looked at him. "You mean she is hunting him? While running away?" "Yes," Taemin said. "She is not running away. She is hunting him with time." 2 hours into the fight, Vex stumbled. It was small, just a slight loss of balance, but Jiwoo saw it. She also noticed he was no longer firing his weapon. Was he conserving energy? Or was he too tired to aim properly? The crowd had gone mostly quiet. This was not how fights were supposed to go. Battles were supposed to be quick, brutal, and decisive. This was something else. This was slow and patient and terrifying in a completely different way. 3 hours. Vex was barely jogging now. His armor seemed to weigh him down like chains. He stumbled again, caught himself, kept moving. But Jiwoo could see the defeat in his movements. He knew what was happening. He was losing to someone who had never even tried to hurt him. Jiwoo slowed her pace slightly. Not much. Just enough to stay ahead, but close enough that Vex could still see her. She wanted him to know she could keep going. That she would never stop. That no matter how long he chased her, she would outlast him. 3 hours and 15 minutes. Vex collapsed. He fell to his knees first, then forward onto his hands. His plasma lance fell from his grip and deactivated. He was breathing so hard that his entire body shook. Jiwoo stopped running. She stood 50 meters away, watching him. Her body was screaming at her to sit down, to rest, but she remained standing. She needed to be ready in case this was a trick. But it was not a trick. Vex tried to stand and failed. His muscles simply would not respond anymore. He had pushed them past their limit. His species was not designed for this kind of endurance. Jiwoo walked toward him slowly. Her legs felt like they were made of stone, but she forced them to move. When she reached Vex, she knelt down beside him. She was still breathing hard, but she could speak. "Do you yield?" she asked in broken Galactic Standard. Vex looked at her through his helmet. She could not read his expression, but she saw something in his eyes. Not anger. Not hatred. Something closer to respect. "Or maybe fear. I yield," he said. His voice came out as a wheeze. The arena was completely silent. Then slowly the silence broke. Not with laughter this time. With confused murmuring. What had they just witnessed? How had a weaponless human defeated a trained Draknor warrior? Medical drones came to collect Vex. They scanned him and determined he was not injured. He was simply exhausted. Completely and totally drained. He would need days to recover. Jiwoo walked out of the arena on her own. Every muscle in her body hurt, but she kept her head up. She had survived. That was all that mattered. In the recovery room, Dr. Myung-hee checked her vital signs. The physician had arrived on a later transport and was now part of the Earth delegation. She looked worried as she read the data. "Your body temperature is high but not dangerous," she said. "Your heart rate is elevated but steady. You are dehydrated. You need to drink water. A lot of water." Jiwoo drank from the bottle Myung-hee gave her. The water tasted like the best thing she had ever consumed. "How do you feel?" Myung-hee asked. "Tired," Jiwoo said. "Very tired. But I can continue if I need to." Myung-hee shook her head. "That is the scary part. You actually mean that. You really could keep going." Taemin and Hee-jin entered the room. The ambassador looked relieved. "That was incredible," he said. "The entire galaxy is talking about what just happened." "What are they saying?" Jiwoo asked. Hee-jin pulled up her tablet and showed Jiwoo some of the messages. They were in dozens of different languages, but the translator made them readable. Some were impressed. Some were confused, but many were worried. A few even used the word terrifying. They are starting to understand, Hyejin said. Humans are not like other species. We do not fight the same way. We do not think the same way. And that scares them. Jiwoo put down the tablet. She did not want to think about being scary. She just wanted to rest. But she knew the trials were not over. There would be more fights. More opponents. Each one harder than the last. That night, Jiwoo could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vex collapsing. She heard the crowd's silence. She felt the weight of what she had done. She had not wanted to humiliate him. She had only wanted to survive. But she was beginning to understand something. Survival could be its own kind of weapon. The ability to outlast your opponent, to refuse to quit no matter what, was more powerful than any plasma lance. A message appeared on her communication device. It was from Vex. The translation was rough, but she understood the meaning. You fight with honor. You gave me mercy when you could have humiliated me further. I respect this. If you face my overlord, remember that he has no such mercy. Be careful. Jiwoo stared at the message for a long time. Then she replied with 2 words. Thank you. Somewhere else on the station, Administrator Velnus was reviewing the fight data in his private chambers. He had watched the entire battle 3 times now, and each time he felt more disturbed. He pulled up the files on human biology that had been collected when Earth made first contact. Most species had dismissed this data as unimportant. Humans were primitive, weak, not worth studying in detail. But now Velnus read the files carefully. Endurance hunter. Persistence predator. Capable of running for hours without stopping. Can regulate body temperature through sweating, allowing continuous activity even in heat. Slow twitch muscle fibers designed for sustained effort, rather than explosive power. Velnus made a note to increase security for the next rounds. He also sent a message to the Galactic Council. They needed to understand what they were dealing with. Humans were not warriors in the traditional sense. They were something else. Something that did not stop. Something that would chase you until you could not run anymore. And that, Velnus realized, was far more terrifying than any weapon. 3 days passed before Jiwoo's next fight. During that time, the entire station buzzed with talk about the human who won by running. Some species started studying human biology. Others placed new bets. The odds were still against her, but they were no longer 1,000,000 to 1. They had dropped to 50,000 to 1. Jiwoo spent the time training and recovering. Dr. Myung-hee monitored her health carefully. The physician was worried that Jiwoo's body would not have enough time to fully recover between fights. But Jiwoo seemed fine. Tired, yes, but not broken. You heal fast, Myung-hee said during one examination. Faster than I expected. Your muscles are rebuilding quickly. Your body is adapting to the stress. Humans are good at adapting, Jiwoo said. It is what we do best. She was right. Humans had survived ice ages and droughts. They had learned to live in deserts and tundra. They had crossed oceans and climbed mountains. Adaptation was in their DNA. Byung-ho, a human anthropologist who had joined the delegation, came to see Jiwoo. He was a quiet man who spent most of his time in the station's archives, researching the trials and their history. I found something interesting, he said, sitting down across from Jiwoo. The arena AI is very old. Older than any civilization we have met. It was created by a race called the progenitors millions of years ago. What happened to them? Jiwoo asked. No one knows. They disappeared. But they left behind technology like the arena AI. It is designed to judge species, to test them, to see which ones have true survival potential. Jiwoo thought about this. So when it said Earth does not need weapons, it was not an insult, Byung-ho finished. It was an observation. The AI does not give weapons to species that already have what they need to survive. It saw something in humanity that made weapons unnecessary. What did it see? Jiwoo asked. Byung-ho smiled slightly. You. It saw people like you. People who do not give up. Who adapt. Who endure. That is more powerful than any weapon. The announcement came that evening. Jiwoo's next opponent had been chosen. Her name was Eros, a sylphid from a low-gravity world. Sylphids were built for flight. They had hollow bones and large wings. They were fast and graceful in the air. The arena would be configured with reduced gravity to give Eros an advantage. Jiwoo would not be able to run the same way she did against Vex, The lighter gravity would make every movement feel strange and unpredictable. Heejin pulled up information about sylphids. They are endurance flyers, she said. They can stay in the air for hours. But they have weaknesses. Their hollow bones make them fragile, and their respiratory system is very sensitive. Too much oxygen can poison them. Jiwoo thought about this. She was a medic. She understood biology. If she could manipulate the environment somehow, maybe she could turn Eros' strengths into weaknesses. She spent the next day training in the station's variable gravity sections. It was difficult at first. Every step felt wrong. But slowly she learned to adjust. Humans were good at that. Adjusting, learning, adapting. The day of the fight arrived. The arena was packed again. Even more beings had come to watch. The human was becoming famous and everyone wanted to see what she would do next. Jiwoo entered the arena and immediately felt the difference. The gravity was about half of Earth normal. Each step made her bounce slightly. It would take some getting used to. Arrows flew in from above. She was beautiful in a strange way, with wings that shimmered like oil on water and a body that seemed almost too delicate to be real. She carried no weapon, but her claws looked sharp enough to be dangerous. The countdown began. Jiwoo watched Arrows circling above. She could not outrun a flying opponent. She would need to be smarter. The signal sounded. Arrows dove at Jiwoo with incredible speed. Jiwoo threw herself to the side, rolling across the ground. The reduced gravity made the roll turn into a tumbling bounce, but she managed to control it. Arrows circled and dove again. This time Jiwoo was ready. She dodged behind a large rock. Arrow's claws scraped across the stone, leaving deep gouges. Jiwoo noticed something. The arena had environmental controls. She could see the control panels scattered throughout the space. They were meant to create different challenges, but maybe she could use them differently. She ran toward the nearest panel, bouncing in the low gravity. Arrows followed, diving and slashing. Jiwoo felt claws graze her shoulder, drawing blood, but she did not stop. She reached the panel and quickly read the controls. Atmospheric content, temperature, humidity, pressure. All of it could be adjusted within certain limits. Jiwoo made a few quick changes and then ran to the next panel. Arrows was confused. Why was the human running to these panels instead of trying to escape? Was this some kind of strategy? It was. With each panel Jiwoo reached, she made small adjustments to the arena's atmosphere. She increased the oxygen content slightly, just a little bit. Not enough to be obvious, but enough to make a difference over time. 20 minutes into the fight, Arrows began to notice something was wrong. Her breathing felt strange. Her wings felt heavy. She was still faster than the human, but not as fast as she should be. 40 minutes in, Arrows was struggling. The oxygen was affecting her. Too much oxygen was toxic to sylphids. Their bodies were not designed to process it in high concentrations. She tried to climb higher where the oxygen might be thinner, but the arena's ceiling was not that high. Jiwoo kept moving. She was tired, and her shoulder hurt where Arrows had scratched her, but she could continue. She had been breathing the high oxygen air too, but humans could handle it. In fact, it gave her a little more energy. 1 hour. Arrow's flight became erratic. She wobbled in the air. Her wings beat slower. She tried to land and rest, but Jiwoo would not let her. Every time Arrows tried to land, Jiwoo moved toward her, forcing her back into the air. The crowd watched in growing horror. This was not a fight. This was something else. The human was using the arena itself as a weapon. She was turning the environment against her opponent. 1 hour and 15 minutes. Arrows crashed. She tried to stay airborne but could not. Her wings gave out and she fell to the ground. She lay there, breathing rapidly, her body shaking. Jiwoo walked over to her carefully. She checked to make sure Arrows was not faking. Then she knelt down. "Do you yield?" Jiwoo asked. Arrows looked at her with large, multifaceted eyes. "How?" she whispered. "How did you know?" "I am a medic," Jiwoo said. "I study biology. I knew that sylphids are sensitive to oxygen. I just used what I knew." Arrows made a sound that might have been laughter or crying. "I yield. You are terrifying, human. You do not fight with honor. You fight with knowledge." "That is worse," Jiwoo stood up. She did not know how to feel about that. Was it wrong to use intelligence instead of strength? Was it dishonorable to turn her opponent's biology against them? The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some species were impressed by Jiwoo's creativity. Others were disturbed. A few were calling for her disqualification, arguing that manipulating the environment was against the spirit of the trials. But Administrator Velness ruled that she had broken no rules. The environmental controls were part of the arena. Any fighter could use them. Jiwoo had simply been smart enough to realize their potential. That night, Eros requested a meeting with Jiwoo. They sat together in a quiet observation lounge looking out at the stars. "I need to understand," Eros said through her translator. "Why did you not finish me quickly? You could have let me suffer longer, made it more painful, but you ended it as soon as I could no longer fight." Jiwoo thought about her answer. "Because survival does not require cruelty. I only needed you to yield. Making you suffer more would not help me. Humans learn to survive by working together, by helping each other. Fighting is not natural to me, but enduring is. Thinking is, using what I know to stay alive." Eros was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that made Jiwoo feel cold. "Your species terrifies me. Not because you are strong, but because you never stop. If humans decide something must be done, you will do it, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs. That is not a warrior's mindset. That is something far more dangerous." "What is it?" Jiwoo asked. "It is inevitability," Eros said. "Like time. Like death. You cannot fight it. You can only endure it until it consumes you, and humans are that inevitability made flesh." Jiwoo sat with those words for a long time after Eros left. She looked out at Earth, a small blue dot in the distance, and wondered what kind of creature she had become in the eyes of the galaxy. She had only wanted to survive. But survival, she was learning, could be the most terrifying thing of all. Jiwoo won 3 more fights over the next 2 weeks. Each opponent was different. Each challenge tested her in new ways. She faced a warrior with cloaking technology who could become invisible. She defeated him by tracking his footprints in the dust. She fought someone who could create force fields. She outlasted them until their energy ran out. She battled a creature that could split into multiple copies. She tired them all out until they merged back into one exhausted being. With each victory, the galaxy's view of humanity changed. Earth was no longer a joke, no longer primitive. Trade offers started arriving, alliance proposals, but also threats. Some species were afraid of what humans might become, what they might do if they were given advanced technology and weapons. Jiwoo felt the weight of this on her shoulders. She was not just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Earth's future, for billions of people who were depending on her to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Dr. Myung-hee's examinations were becoming more concerning. "Your body is holding up, but barely," the physician said. "You are accumulating damage faster than you can heal. If you continue like this, you will cause permanent injury." "I have to continue," Jiwoo said. "I am almost at the finals." "There is no almost," Myung-hee said firmly. "Either you make it or you do not. And if you push too hard, you will not make it at all." But Jiwoo could not stop. She had come too far, done too much. She owed it to Vex, who had shown her respect, to Eros, who had called her inevitable, to all the humans watching from Earth who believed in her. The announcement came on a quiet morning. Jiwoo had advanced to the final round. But there was a twist. The final round was not a single fight. It was called the Gauntlet. 5 consecutive battles with no rest between them. She would face Overlord Krath's 5 elite guards one after another, and if she survived all 5, she would face Krath himself. It was designed to be impossible. No one had ever completed the Gauntlet. Most fighters were defeated by the 2nd or 3rd guard. Those who made it further were too exhausted to face Krath. Taemin came to see Jiwoo in her quarters. He looked older than he had when they first arrived at the station. The stress of representing Earth had aged him. "You can withdraw," he said. "You have done enough. You have proven that humans deserve respect. We have received trade agreements, technology offers, political alliances. You have given us what we came for. But," Jiwoo said. She could hear the unspoken word. Taemin sighed. "But if you stop now, there will always be doubt. Some species will say we got lucky, that our victories were flukes. If you want Earth to be truly respected, truly feared enough that no one will threaten us, you need to finish this." "So I do not really have a choice," Jiwoo said. "You always have a choice," Taemin said. "But yes, the consequences of each choice are different. I will support whatever you decide." Jiwoo thought about it for a long time after Taemin left. She thought about her family on Earth, her friends, the patients she had treated, the people whose lives she had saved. What would they want her to do? She knew the answer. They would want her to come home safe, but they would also want her to finish what she started. Humans did not quit. It was not in their nature. The next day, Jiwoo announced she would compete in the gauntlet. The news spread across the station in minutes. Betting markets went crazy. Most odds said she would not survive past the third guard. Hee-jin helped Jiwoo prepare. The military advisor had studied each of Krath's guards carefully. The first guard specializes in close combat, fast and brutal. The second uses ranged weapons. The third fights from the air. The fourth manipulates the environment. The fifth uses psychological tactics. And Krath? Jiwoo asked. Krath is all of them combined, Hee-jin said. He is the best fighter in the known galaxy. He has never lost, never even come close to losing. Most of his fights end in under 5 minutes. Then I need to make sure the fight does not end in 5 minutes, Jiwoo said. That night, someone knocked on Jiwoo's door. When she opened it, she was surprised to see Vex standing there. The Draknor warrior looked uncomfortable. I should not be here, he said, but I owe you for showing me mercy, so I will tell you something about my overlord. Krath has never fought for longer than 1 hour. His body is built for overwhelming power in short bursts. If you can extend the fight, make it last hours instead of minutes, you might have a chance. Thank you, Jiwoo said. Why are you helping me? Vex looked at her with his reptilian eyes. Because you fight with honor, and because I think the galaxy needs to learn the lesson you are teaching. That power comes in many forms. Not all of them involve weapons. The night before the gauntlet, Jiwoo could not sleep. She sat in the observation deck, looking at Earth. It was such a small planet compared to the vastness of space, but it was home. And it was worth fighting for. The arena AI's voice spoke in her mind. It was the first time it had communicated with her outside the combat zone. Question. Do you understand why you require no weapons? Jiwoo thought carefully before answering. I think so. Because humans already are weapons. Not weapons of destruction, but of persistence. We endure, we adapt. We never stop. That is more dangerous than any tool you could give us. Correct, the AI said. You have learned what many species never understand. Power is not about strength. It is about continuation, about being willing to exist 1 more second, 1 more minute, 1 more hour than your opponent. Will I survive tomorrow? Jiwoo asked. I do not predict outcomes. I only assess potential. But I will tell you this. You possess the same quality that allowed your species to survive when stronger. Faster species went extinct. You refuse to accept defeat. Whether that is enough, only tomorrow will tell. No pressure, Jiwoo said with a weak smile. Pressure creates diamonds, the AI said, or it crushes coal into dust. Prepare yourself, human. Tomorrow the galaxy will witness what your species truly is. Jiwoo returned to her quarters and finally managed to sleep for a few hours. When she woke, she felt strangely calm. Not confident, but accepting. Whatever happened today, she would face it the same way she had faced everything else. 1 step at a time, 1 breath at a time, 1 moment at a time. The Earth delegation gathered to see her off. Taemin shook her hand. Hee-jin gave her a small nod of respect. Dr. Myung-hee looked worried but said nothing. Byung-ho handed her a small data chip. What is this? Jiwoo asked. Everything I learned about the progenitors, he said, in case you meet the AI again. I think it wants to tell you something important about why it chose humans. Jiwoo put the chip in her pocket. Then she walked toward the arena. The halls were packed with aliens who had come to watch. Some looked excited, others looked nervous. A few looked afraid. When Jiwoo entered the preparation area, she saw Krath's 5 guards waiting. They were all massive, all armed, all looking at her like she was already dead. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. But she forced herself to walk forward, to take that first step, because that was what humans did. They took the first step, then the second, then the third, and they never stopped until they reached their destination or died trying. The arena doors opened. The crowd roared, and Jiwoo walked in unarmed and alone to face the impossible. The first guard came at Jiwoo like a storm. He was fast and brutal, exactly as Hee-jin had warned. His fist could crack stone. His movements were precise and deadly. Jiwoo barely dodged the first strike. She felt the wind from his fist pass her face. She ran, not in panic but with purpose. She knew she could not match his speed or strength, but she could tire him out. The close combat specialist chased her across the arena. throwing punches that would have killed her instantly if they connected. But they did not connect. Jiwoo twisted and dodged, always staying just out of reach. 30 minutes later, the first guard's movements became slower. His breathing was harsh. Jiwoo's ribs hurt from where one glancing blow had caught her, but she could continue. When the guard finally yielded, unable to maintain his pace, the crowd was silent. 1 down, 5 to go. The second guard entered immediately. He carried weapons that fired bolts of energy. Jiwoo had to use every rock and barrier in the arena to stay alive. The shots came fast and accurate. One grazed her leg, burning through her clothes and leaving a painful mark on her skin. But she gritted her teeth and kept moving. This fight lasted longer. The guard with the ranged weapons could attack from a distance, but that meant he was not chasing her as actively. Jiwoo used that. She made him waste energy on shots that missed, made him carry his weapons across the entire arena. After an hour, his aim became less accurate. His shots slower. When he yielded, Jiwoo was bleeding from several burns but still standing. The third guard flew in from above on mechanical wings. He dropped nets and tried to trap her. Jiwoo barely avoided being caught. Her body was screaming at her to stop, to rest, but there was no rest in the gauntlet. She forced herself to keep moving, to keep thinking. After 40 minutes of aerial assault, the flying guard's equipment failed from overuse. He crashed and yielded. The fourth guard manipulated the arena itself, creating walls of fire and pools of freezing water. Jiwoo's clothes were torn and burned. Her body was covered in bruises and cuts. Dr. Myung-hee was watching from the delegation box, looking like she might be sick. But Jiwoo kept going. She learned the guard's patterns and avoided the worst of the environmental attacks. When he exhausted his energy reserves, he yielded. The fifth guard was the worst. He did not attack her body. He attacked her mind. He used speakers to play sounds that hurt her ears. He projected images that were meant to frighten her. He tried to break her spirit. Jiwoo closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. She thought about Earth, about home, about why she was here. The psychological attacks washed over her but did not break her. When the fifth guard realized his tactics were not working, he yielded in frustration. Jiwoo stood in the center of the arena, covered in injuries, exhausted beyond anything she had ever felt. Every part of her body hurt. She was not sure she could take another step. But then the arena doors opened again and Overlord Krath walked in. He was bigger than she remembered. His armor gleamed black in the arena lights. His weapon hummed with deadly energy. He looked at Jiwoo and she saw something in his eyes. Not contempt anymore. Something closer to respect, or maybe concern. "You have done well, human," Krath said. His voice was deep and powerful. "You have defeated 5 of my best warriors. That is more than anyone expected. You may yield now with honor." Jiwoo wanted to accept. Every fiber of her being wanted to stop. But she thought about Vex's advice, about making the fight last, about being inevitable. "No," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "I will continue." Krath nodded slowly. "Then I will make it quick. You have earned that much." The countdown began. Jiwoo took a deep breath. She could barely stand, but she could still think, still plan, still endure. The signal sounded. Krath charged with speed that should not have been possible for something his size. Jiwoo threw herself to the side, landing badly and crying out in pain. But she was alive. She got up and ran. The crowd roared. They could not believe it. After everything, the human was still running, still refusing to give up. It was madness. It was impossible. It was terrifying. Krath pursued her with relentless fury. His weapon fired beams that carved through the arena floor. He was faster than Jiwoo, stronger, more skilled. But Jiwoo had something he did not. She had the knowledge that this was exactly what she needed to do. Run, endure, outlast. 1 hour passed. Krath was still strong, but Jiwoo noticed small changes. His breathing was slightly heavier. His movements just a fraction slower. She had been running for hours now, through 5 fights and now into a 6th. Her body should have given up long ago, but it had not. Because human bodies were designed for exactly this kind of torture. 2 hours. Krath's attacks became less frequent. He was conserving energy, trying to catch Jiwoo in decisive strikes rather than chasing constantly. But every time he tried to cut her off, she found another path, another way around. 3 hours. Something changed in Krath's demeanor. He was no longer confident. His armor, designed to intimidate and protect in short battles, had become a burden. It was too heavy, too hot. He was sweating inside it. Jiwoo could see it in his movements. 4 hours. Krath stumbled. It was small, just a moment of weakness, but it was there. For the first time in his long career, he was fighting someone who refused to accept that the fight should end. Someone who would keep going no matter what. 5 hours. The crowd had gone completely silent. This was not a fight anymore. This was something else. A demonstration, a lesson, a revelation about what humans truly were. 6 hours. Krath stopped chasing. He stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard. Jiwoo stopped too, maintaining distance. They looked at each other across the space between them. How? Krath said. How are you still standing? Because I have to, Jiwoo said. Because my planet is depending on me. Because humans do not give up, we cannot. It is not in us. 7 hours. Krath fell to one knee, not from an injury, from pure exhaustion. His body, built for overwhelming power in short bursts, had never been pushed this far. He tried to stand and failed. His muscles simply would not respond. Jiwoo walked toward him. Every step took enormous effort. Her vision was blurry. Her hands were shaking, but she walked. She reached Krath and looked down at him. Do you yield? She asked. Krath looked up at her. In his eyes, Jiwoo saw something she never expected to see from the galaxy's greatest warrior. Fear, not fear of pain or death. Fear of what she represented. Fear of a species that would never stop. I yield, Krath said. The arena exploded with noise. Some species were celebrating. Others were arguing. A few were silent, processing what they had witnessed. Jiwoo collapsed. She had held on as long as she needed to. Now her body finally gave out. Medical drones rushed to her. Dr. Myung-hee was there moments later, scanning her vital signs and barking orders. She will be fine, Myung-hee said, though her voice shook. She needs rest. Weeks of it, but she will recover. Humans always do. Jiwoo woke up 3 days later in the medical bay. Taemin was sitting beside her bed. When he saw her eyes open, he smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had seen from him since they arrived at the station. You did it, he said. Earth is no longer a primitive world in the eyes of the galaxy. We are a power now. Trade agreements are flooding in. Technology transfers, military alliances, everything we came for and more. Good, Jiwoo said. Her throat was dry. Then I can go home? Yes, Taemin said. As soon as you are well enough to travel. Jiwoo closed her eyes. Home. The word had never sounded so beautiful. Before they left the station, Jiwoo went to see the arena AI one last time. She stood in the chamber and waited for it to speak. You wish to understand, the AI said, why Earth does not need weapons. Yes, Jiwoo said. I have evaluated millions of species across 10 million years, the AI said. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have watched the strong destroy themselves with their power, and the weak survive through cleverness. But humans are unique. You are the only species that weaponize time itself. I do not understand, Jiwoo said. Other species race against time. They try to accomplish things before time runs out. But humans outlast time. You endure. You persist. You continue existing when everything else has given up. That is not a gift. It is a warning to the galaxy. A warning? Jiwoo asked. Yes. Because you do not need weapons when you are patience made manifest. When you are endurance given form. Earth does not need weapons because Earth created the ultimate one, humanity. A species that will survive anything, outlast anyone, never stop, never quit, never accept defeat. Jiwoo was quiet for a long time. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That, the AI said, depends on what humans choose to do with that power. I merely observe. I do not judge. But know this, every species that has met you will remember. They will tell stories about the human who defeated champions without ever throwing a punch, about the planet that needs no weapons. And they will be afraid. Use that fear wisely. 6 months later, Jiwoo stood in the hospital in Seoul where she used to work. She had been asked to give a speech to the medical students. They wanted to hear about the trials, about fighting aliens, about becoming a hero. But Jiwoo did not talk about fighting. She talked about surviving, about enduring, about refusing to give up even when everything seems impossible. I am not special, she told them.